De las Casas manages to pull off something that I would have thought was impossible. He convinces the Spanish crown to allow a debate to determine what's going to happen to the Native Americans going forward. The debate will take place in 1550 in Valladolid, in Spain. So De las Casas grabs a bunch of monks and a bunch of Native Americans, and they get on a ship, and they go to Spain to do this debate. The guy they're against is a guy named Inés de Sepúlveda. De Sepúlveda is going to argue that Native American slavery makes sense. And then De las Casas is going to argue it doesn't. The judges are going to be members of the merchant class, members of the clergy, members of the nobility, members of the royal family. Well, it's the Spanish Empire, which in 1550 is a massive empire. Its size is incomparable. It's the largest empire to that date on the planet. In other words, this is a pan-global empire that's run by a bunch of guys who are mostly German. And the king's like, yeah, let's have a debate. Let's figure out what we're going to do with the Native Americans. That's a good idea. But the king's also making crazy money off of the slavery. The merchant class is making crazy money off of the slavery. The church is making crazy money off of the slavery. In other words, De las Casas is going in debate knowing the judges are biased against him. He's in trouble. De Sepúlveda is going to try 3 times to convince the jury that we should continue doing Native American slavery. One of his arguments is that man was given dominion over the animals in the Old Testament, and that the Native Americans are animals. Therefore, since the Spaniards are men, they should have dominion over the Native Americans. And so, De las Casas brings up a group of Native Americans. He has one of the Native Americans tell his life story. And then he has another Native American tell jokes. And he has another Native American tell lies. And afterwards, he turns to the jurors and goes, when was the last time you heard an animal tell their life story? Tell a joke. Tell a lie. And that's how he wins round 1. Round 2. De Sepúlveda invokes natural slavery from Aristotle. So, what Aristotle says is there are natural slaves and natural masters, just as the mind should be in charge of the body, not the stomach. In other words, you should have the mind in charge, not the impulses. You should have the person who's best suited to make the best decisions in charge, not dumb people. Obviously, the United States didn't know that when it made itself into a democracy. But anyway, that the idea is that everywhere on the planet there are people who are natural masters and natural slaves. And then Aristotle says the worst way on earth to get your slaves is by conquering another country, because when you do, you're going to enslave natural masters. And some of you will be natural slaves, so some of this will be unjust, because you should not have enslaved natural masters. That's wrong. And so that's all De las Casas does, is he points out you didn't keep reading. You didn't read far enough. And then the last thing that De Sepúlveda tries to do is might makes right. We conquered them. That's how it is. I'm sorry. I mean, if God had wanted it to be otherwise, he would have given the Native Americans some advantages. And of course, De las Casas has no problem destroying might makes right. It's a dumb argument. I mean, Plato's The Republic destroys it. So you just invoke Plato and you're finished. The conversation's over. De las Casas knows he's won. And he knows the judges are going to vote to keep Native American slavery. So it's the closing argument. And De las Casas goes, all right, let's talk this through. So when we conquered Haiti, because he does Haiti. When we conquered Haiti, the Taino who saved Columbus's life in 1493, there were 500,000 of them. In 1525, 33 years later, there were none left. We exterminated 500,000 Taino. Some Taino made it. But you get the idea. Even if it wasn't 100%, it was still 98%. It was pretty close to 100%. So De las Casas says, we mass exterminated the population on that island through enslavement. And that's what's happening in Mexico. And he says, at the rate we're going, by the year 1600, there will be no Native Americans left. This is raw, pure, unadulterated massacre genocide. De las Casas pointed to, and we've known it ever since. If I do warfare, destroy your agriculture system, enslave you, work you to the brink of death, which breaks your immune system, and then hit you with a disease that has a morbidity rate of 25%, and you don't have an immune system because you've been worked so hard and you don't have proper nutrition, yeah, you're going to die in really large numbers. In other words, had the Spanish not enslaved the Native Americans and done the warfare and broken their agriculture system, the diseases would have killed 50 million people or 40 million people. It wouldn't have been 175 million people. So to say it's the diseases is a mistake. It's wrong. The majority of the deaths that happen are because of Spain directly. And that's what De las Casas is arguing in 1550. So he says, but I know that you don't care about the future. You don't care that there's going to be no Native Americans in 50 years. You don't care how your children are going to make money off of slavery because there's going to be no slaves because they're going to be dead. I know who you are. I know the only thing you care about is making money right here, right now. And you don't care that we've massacred millions of people already. You don't care that we've brought nothing to them. De las Casas, the Dominican monk, says the worst thing to happen to the Native Americans was Christianity. They already had a religion. They already had God. What we've done is we've reduced them at every level. And then he says, but since I know you're going to vote to keep slavery, I have no choice but to save the Native Americans. The North Atlantic current is clockwise. So when our ships leave Sevilla, they pass the West African coast on their way to the Caribbean. Why not free the Native Americans? Let's send missionaries to turn them into Catholic subjects of the Spanish Empire and teach them Spanish. But have our ships stop in Africa and pick up African slaves who have already been exposed to the old world diseases. And then we'll bring over African slaves. That way your grandchildren can have slaves in 1600, but we'll save the Native Americans. We'll hurt the Africans. We'll kill millions. We'll reduce the economy of Africa to rubble. We'll damage Africa, permanently maybe. But in the process, we'll save the Native Americans. And so we'll have 3 wrecked continents instead of 2 empty continents. And that's how Bartolomé de las Casas won the debates of Valladolid in 1550.